that IT services does. So it comes as quite a shock to our customers really to know that we don't just sit around waiting for the phone to ring and race out in our superhero costumes. We're actually doing quite a lot of stuff in the background. So for example, members of our support teams are involved in quite a lot of project work, as well as doing the second line support. So some examples of this last year were the implementation of network printing for students and print accounting, and the recabling of 2 of our buildings at one of our remote campuses. Doesn't really get seen. Don't realise what the impact is, but they're still doing things. And there's also all the work that we do in migrating corporate systems, which wrongly is thought to be done by the system owners, but it's not. It's done by us. So I thought we'd tell people. We wanted to demonstrate good value for money, given that our funding comes from top slicing with schools and other departments, which is a bit of a bone of contention again. Why should we give you all this money? What are you doing for it? So that's what we're trying to do with this. It meant that we had to target the publication quite carefully, and we also need to think quite carefully about the content in there. So some of the things that we tried to focus on were improvements to the student PC provision. That's quite important. The work we undertake to improve our IT infrastructure, such as networks, servers, all that sort of stuff that goes on in the background and isn't really very interesting unless you've got geek running through your very core. Okay. We also wanted to sort of say to people, yes, we can do the geeking, or some of us can, I can't, but actually we can also speak human. So come and talk to us. And there's a huge variety in what we do. So we tried to show this by including a sort of 3-day in the life of pieces. So last year it was me, the Information Advisor Staff Development Manager, our Desktop Development Manager who develops all our images to go onto the PCs and laptops, non-student PCs, and we also nominated someone from one of our City IT support teams. So three quite very different roles. This year, Sue and I have volunteered our service desk coordinator, a member of our admin team, and a member of the remote campus IT support team. And only one of those people has not required any cajoling. Ooh, I don't know what you want me to write about. I mean, what people won't be interested. Yes, they will. So what best practice came out of it? Well, we try to use existing information. So we get as much of the content as we can from bi-monthly. What I mean is every 2 months. We've had a bit of a debate over whether that actually was bi-monthly, but it's every 2 months. Briefings, which already provide the focus on sort of major achievements throughout the year, so we get the content on there. It doesn't mean that we don't still need input from other staff, but we give them the bones of an article and we ask them to sort of add the meat, if you like. We try to make it visually attractive, so we use colours, pictures, a magazine sort of layout with lots of columns, and we also use little short sort of headlines that would give people information without them actually having to read the article if they didn't want to read the whole article. So some of the examples of the headlines that we used were 2,000 student PCs upgraded to XP, 180 networks which is replaced, IT website usage more than doubles. So they told quite, 3 quite important stories, but they didn't have to read any more than that if they didn't want to. It was targeted at deans of school, heads of service, university executive, technology supported learning coordinators, learning and teaching coordinators. And we only included information that would be of potential interest to those people. So there's lots more we could have said, but we had to be quite careful about what we put in. We also gave each of our staff a copy. Why did we do that? Well, one, because we wanted to make sure that they knew what we were telling our customers, so that if anyone stopped them in the corridor, they could sing from the same hymn sheet, if you like. But we also wanted to give them a sense of achievement. So they get all the information, but it comes to them in separate bits throughout the year. And I think it's only when you sit down and read it in one go that you actually realise what and what you've achieved. Because it's quite easy to lose sight of that. And finally, we tried to personalise it as much as possible. So we used envelopes that were addressed to individuals, not roles. By individuals, I mean names. We also sent the director home with 200 bright pink post-its, there's a picture of one there, with an instruction that he had to write a personal message on each one of those 200 and bring them back to work the following morning. That's where the nagging comes in again. So it couldn't have been that bad, because Sue and I are still here. I just come to think of it, he's not. So perhaps it was. I don't know. What about time and resources? Well, work started on compiling the annual report in mid-January 2007, and it was distributed by the end of March. So roughly it was about 2.5 months. It was written by us, by Sue and myself, and it wasn't 2.5 months of full-time work, it was snippets of work over a 2.5 month period. The hardest part was actually sitting down and deciding what to include and what not to include, because there was lots of stuff that we wanted to put in, and we had to be hard about dropping some stuff. We didn't ask for volunteers, we told them, you are volunteering. They're quite used to us doing things like that now, but we find that if you ask for volunteers, it slows things down. And when you're working to deadlines, it's not, doesn't really help. We were also quite specific about what we wanted from them and when we wanted them by. And they're not allowed to sleep on the when. That's where the nagging comes in again. And the cost for design and production was about £600. So not very much money at all. This year we're actually considering increasing our circulation. From comments that we had last year saying, oh, why don't you send it to such and such and such and such? Somebody even said, all university staff. And ironically, that will mean that our costs actually come down this year, so it will get cheaper if we increase the circulation. So, feedback. What feedback did we get? Well, I'm not going to read that, but you can read it for yourself. But that was a piece of feedback from a technology-supported learning coordinator. They're quite a tough bunch, really, to satisfy. They often perceive us as being obstructive and stopping the implementation of new technological toys. And God forbid we ask them to plan several months in advance. We had an associate dean the other day inform us that it's unreasonable to expect academic staff to plan in advance. We should be able to be changing our software portfolio, days before we've got to deliver it. Yeah, what about the time we need to actually prepare? Anyway, enough whinging. The next one was a monthly IT bulletin. It's a monthly email newsletter. We call it IT Updates, and it goes to about 100 technical staff, both within IT services but also providing support remotely out in learning centres or the campuses, things like that. It tries to ensure that these staff have access to relevant, timely technical information which can support them in their role. It has links to information and documentation relating to our supported systems, and it provides easy to follow indications of where there's new material, where things have changed, things that they need to go and make a point of looking at. So that's what it tries to do. And it points them at the technical help pages. It was also done in an attempt to try and encourage, engender, enable some knowledge sharing, which has been problematic in the past. No, that's my bit of information, I can't possibly tell you that. It's very difficult getting staff to contribute at first. It really, really was a hard slog. I think they probably thought, well, that's somebody else's job. Or more specifically, well, that's your job, and we're training in information. But hey, unless you give us the information, we can't actually write about it. So now we've got a small but strong group of regular contributors, and I think they actually now see writing sort of documentation and documenting the procedures that they follow as a natural extension of their job, and we see that as a huge victory. The increased knowledge is leading to improved customer service because staff are working to common standards and they feel less isolated, and miscommunication is minimised, although not completely eradicated, but we'll get there.